Hello, beautiful people. I am Oliver Perrin for Semiagog. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Please do let me know in the comments whether or not I am properly audible on this microphone. I'm going to pour myself just a touch of apple juice here to enjoy during our discussion. Don't expect any kind of new crazy hot take this evening. My aim with the discussion will be to review the current situation and the headlines, the things that are currently going on as regards the Russia conflict. And I chose that name, or that title, I should say, for the stream this evening because there's more going on beyond NATO and Russia's intervention in the Ukrainian civil war. There is an ongoing shift in things, including the Promethean strategy that was discussed in two previous videos that I did with Prudentialist and Charlemagne, the second of which had Mr. M. S. as well, for those who haven't caught it. So there's that Promethean aspect, the idea of peeling off formerly Russian possessions or countries that were very firmly in Russia's control, or else, less so, but within their sphere of influence. I will rather get into that, at least in terms of laying out the basic picture in just a few minutes here. Before I do that, I want to say follow this channel, Semiagog, as well as the sister channel, Safer Space. You can do that on YouTube. Both channels are available here. Both channels are over on BitChute, and you can find all of the Semiagog content on Odyssey. I hope that you will head over there and check that out, subscribe, etc. Also, please do follow me on Twitter. You can do so on Gab, and I hope you will do so on Telegram because, despite changes over on Twitter, it's entirely possible that any one of us could be canceled on that platform with little or no notice. An absolutely delightful taste. Please do consider purchasing my books. If you have not purchased my books, well, the question is, why? This is Vinculum. It is a sci-fi book set in a dystopian future, not that far away, the year 2076. As I recall, most of the action takes place in Istanbul, and we see a book thief by the name of Alaric McBroom pursued by remorseless corporate hitmen and an esoteric sect of assassins. It's it's a fun little bit. Don't want to give anything away, but you can find it over on Amazon under the name Oliver Perrin. It's available under the title Vinculum. You can also find a collection of my poems. I know you Philistines, for the most part, don't care for poems, but, fuck you. Buy my book. Buy my book now. This is Cinders from the Bloomery of Youth. That's under the name Oliver Timken Perrin. You can also find that over on Amazon. Links are in the description below. For the Praetorian Chads who make this channel possible, who support me, thank you very, very much indeed for that ongoing support. It is much appreciated, and I accept it gratefully. Okay, so I see Zed Dez is in the house. Thank you for being here. Zed Dez, thank you very much indeed. And if some of the Ukraine bros start rolling in here and just saying stupid shit, feel free to eject them. Zed, this is not a discussion that's out there for the general public. It's not intended to be fair and balanced. I don't care about other people's viewpoints. Everyone should know by now that this is where I just ramble through my own thoughts on this matter. Those of you who are familiar with my thoughts on this, or who have followed others whom I recommend, like Charlemagne, who just put out a 2-part video with Furious Pertinax. I recommend everyone go check that out. The first part is sort of the political background for it. Then he's got a second video. The whole thing runs just under 2 hours, 2 videos taken together. Second video covers more of the military situation. With a lot of these kinds of videos, they can become dated rather quickly with changes on the ground. But I just watched both of those of his this evening, and they're still very much up to date given the current situation. So check him out. So anyway, people who follow Charlemagne, his Substack is also good. People who follow prudentialists, geopolitical considerations, I recommend him as well very much. You know that we're just putting it out there with a more or less value-free analysis. But you know, if you want to hear slobbering garbage, there are any number of other places you can go to hear it. Yeah. So what will I start with? I think I will start with another sip of this delicious drink and perhaps a cigarette. The first thing I want to take a look at is Poland, which should be on everyone's mind. If you have not caught those previous streams, as I said that I did with MS, Charlemagne, and Prudentialist, go check them out. There are two of them so far, and they lay out this whole Promethean angle. I know people in Eastern Europe are familiar with this. I had not been until somebody kindly, pointed me to it on Twitter, because I was arriving at some conclusions that were kind of taking me in that direction anyway, relative to the 3 Cs initiative. I was like, as best I can tell, the 3 Cs initiative seems to be designed to, block Russia's access to 3 Cs. And I can't remember who the hell it was, but they hammered back with, it's basic Prometheanism strategy. And so I looked into Piłsudski, a Polish statesman and military guy who is primarily responsible for putting this doctrine together. And the fruits of that, with the considerable assistance of Charlemagne and Prudentialist, are available with those two earlier videos. But I'm also going to be looking at this stuff from the perspective of some of my videos from before that, before I'd heard about any of this, where I was just talking about countries that had formerly been very much within Russia's orbit, that NATO and other powers are attempting to peel away now. I'd been looking at places like Georgia. I'd been looking at places like Bulgaria, Moldova, Transnistria, Armenia, Kazakhstan, these kinds of places. So I want to just take a look at the headlines in general from those countries as well. Though I should say I'm not anti-Ukraine and I'm not anti-Poland. I'm not pro-Russia. I'm disgusted by the way the Ukraine business is being sold in the West, and I'm disgusted by shills. They annoy me on both sides. The Alexander Mercouris type shills annoy me, though there's value in watching him. I do so. The Perun shills really, really fucking annoy me, but there's value in watching him as well. So, I'm just presenting my own take on this. Yeah. So don't expect any heavy kind of Thomas 777 bias against Ukraine, although I love how he colorfully expresses that. Likewise, don't expect, any kind of serious pro-Russia bias, though I'm sure the fucking slobbering Ukraine bros and, the rooms full of shills from Latvia or whatever are going to come in here to be like, that's not balanced. So let's start out with a clip that I came across shortly after Charlemagne, Prudentialist, MS, and the rest of us had done the first of these two Prometheanism clips. When we did those, it was becoming increasingly apparent that the United States and other powers were going to dump considerable money and a fair number of military assets into Poland to bring it up to strength as a major power in Europe. Again, if you don't have the Prometheanism background on all of this, you're flying blind as regards getting any kind of real picture of what's actually going on here. So do check that out. You can watch this, but it's not going to make as much sense as it could or should without that background. So anyway, after we did those videos, I was thinking, but what are we really looking at in terms of the numbers of the actual numbers, the boots on the ground, the men in material in terms of Polish military strength? Is it really there yet? And interestingly enough, we have some news articles to review in that regard that seem to indicate that's definitely the trajectory. And there's also this little bit here, hopefully I can share with you, and hopefully that we'll have, we'll get audio with successfully, that appeared on Twitter. Let's start with this, ladies and gents. Let me see if I can add this to the screen. Which one is it? Okay. Now, hopefully everyone, you can all see this. Can you see this, ladies and gentlemen? And yeah, tell me really quickly if the audio is working on this. Let me jump over here. I'm slow on this, so bear with me.
Extremely important for Poland is.
Can you guys hear that? Did that audio come along like it ought to? Tell me yes. Merve Demir Yilmaz. Merhabalar. Tell me, ladies and gentlemen, whether or not you can hear. Okay, Charlemagne says it does. Okay, so let me just rewind this so we're sure to start from the beginning and give this a listen. Turn your ears to it, ladies and gents.
Oh, very good morning.
Morning.
Ukraine is absolutely extremely important for Poland. It's extremely important for region with global implications. So for the very first day, we started our support in many domains, starting from a human approach, absorbing 8 million Ukrainians crossing the border, a few million still staying in Poland. Then we started, social programs, medical programs, education for them. And immediately we started preparation and sending equipment, ammunition, and anything they need for victory. Well, you can feel every single day that the center of gravity from a historical Cold War time design moved from Germany to Poland, to Warsaw. And
from a historical Cold War design time, some of the expressions that this guy has put together are colorful, to say the least. You can also tell that he's exceedingly nervous. The way he's got his chin tucked in and he's doing it this way. I can't blame him. If I had to appear on, a big national television program speaking Polish, I probably wouldn't do very well either. But note how he started with talking about the refugees, trying to put a human face on it. And remember, he's in front of the, Joe and Mika, and Mika Brzezinski, being the daughter of whom she is, you can tell that there's some old connections rolling here. Let's go continue with this. Sorry, ladies and gents. I also wanted to cut it just in case I get some kind of content strike for playing the news or whatever. Hopefully I won't.
Geostrategy matters, and also geography matters, and our aspirations to the Western civilization as well. So nothing happened without the Poland. We're investing heavily in the security from the very beginning, 3% GDP, and we have an entire list of very important modernization programs. Most of the high-tech equipment comes from U.S. fifth generation airplane. The HIMARS is very famous. We see, effectiveness. M1 tanks as well, the most modern combat platforms. And variety of different programs. And we're going to do more. But the first is just to win Ukraine, because Ukraine matters. Ukraine is basic platform for security. 100 years ago, the Marshal Piłsudski, he said, free Ukraine, free Poland. It's direct connection, direct relations. And that's, after 100 years, still valid.
Sorry, I have to jump in on that. He mentioned Piłsudski and the idea of free Ukraine, free Poland. There were a number of other countries on the Promethean list for that, including Georgia, if I remember correctly, certainly the Baltic states, and others. The basic idea of Prometheanism is take every single country that would normally be in the black column, so to speak, for Russia, and move it into the red column. Move it from an asset to a liability. Move it from a country upon whose resources Russia could draw, both men, material, everything else, turn it into a wound up little enemy gnawing at the flanks of Russia, take advantage of the nationalist concerns of these countries and foment them, drive them, basically use nationalism as a weapon. Again, you have to go back and take a look at the earlier Prometheanism streams, because, you know, I had my sort of belated awakening, as I said in that stream, where I was like, Poland's strong. You know, I love the winged hussars as much as the next guy. They look so dramatic, charging forward with those feathers fluttering behind them and their Carabella sabers, you know. And then I realized, the same people who will set up a color revolution in the Maidan in Ukraine are also perfectly willing to exploit, in the value neutral sense of the term, to exploit the nationalist sentiments, justifiable nationalist sentiments in many respects, of all these different countries that were formerly within Russia's ambit. And so it's interesting to me that the Polish chief of staff is perfectly happy to reference Piłsudski. Of course, that name was utterly lost on everyone in the audience except Mika, I'm quite sure. So let's hear the rest of what he has to say.
Very difficult question, because mostly it goes to the politics, to economy. So we need Ukraine winning in the political domain, in the economical domain. They need money, they need the resources, they need effective sanctions, and of course, one of the conditions will be the military operation, which is critical. But situation is still very dangerous, very important, dramatic from a moral point of view, but it's definitely decisive. What we do today equals to eternity. If we not do, it goes as well. So now or never. I give you a very much Polish flavor.
So that's the basic background there. You can see the guy is talking specifically about Piłsudski. He talks about the idea of a strong Ukraine is key for Poland to maintain its ambitions. That has to do with history that I'm not entirely clear on. I'm hoping to put together a stream with a specialist in history who's a proper fucking mentat. If I can put that together, we'll look at the history of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and the historical clash of powers there between Poland with its historical claims to certain regions and relationships with those regions, as well as Russia. The United States has clearly, as well as a number of other NATO countries who are not all just sitting on the sidelines, they have all apparently come together and put their chips on this little red and white square on the game board, and we'll see whether or not Poland comes out of it doing as well as they imagine they will. Given the track record of the United States basically scraping their allies off of their shoes, you know, your guess is as good as mine. All right, let's jump over here. I had to do that on a tab basis to have the audio play. Now I'm going to hopefully be able to put together, bear with me, this is a boomer moment. Hopefully I'm going to be able to put together the whole window of these tabs I have, and we can go through them one by one. Yes, okay. Hopefully this will work. Let's see if this does what it's supposed to do. All right. So yeah, let's jump over here first off to this article. Hopefully everybody can see this. This is from the Telegraph. Poland builds Europe's largest land force to counter Russian threat. One of the Russian shill channels that's really obnoxious in many ways. But again, you have to watch them because sometimes they have information that's useful. That's Beletic, the new Atlas, but he's very, very pro-Russian, to the point of being kind of tedious sometimes. But nevertheless, you know, watching his article, his channel, I became aware of this article. So Warsaw is embarking on its biggest rearmament drive in 50 years in response to the growing threat posed by Russia. Oh, no, it's going to... Oh, I can't... All right. I have to sign up for a fucking Telegraph Ah, dirt bags. Charlemagne, is there any way to get this thing for free that you know of? If there is, tell me in the comments. If not, everybody can go and look at this article. The gist of it is, well, let's see. What do I have to do for a free trial? You wretched fucking curs. Oh, I have to receive offers. Oh, I can't do it. I can't, ladies and gentlemen. I can't. If there is a way to view it. Oh, Charlie, has he given me a, let's see. What do we have? Maybe we can get some of it. Basically, this article just goes over some of the anticipated purchases and the weapons. Let's see. Ah, nice. See? Ask the main. All right. Christmas came early for Captain Marek Adamiak and the troops of Poland's 11th Artillery Regiment. Stationed not far from the Russian border, his unit has long grappled with outdated kit. But in mid-December, they received 24 South Korean-made K9 self-propelled howitzers that can hit targets up to 34 miles away, bringing new and deadly capabilities to the regiment. Now, this is something important to pay attention to. Poland is doing major arms purchases from South Korea. And as it happens, that was also part of Piłsudski's planning, because Russia is so damn big. Part of his planning, the Soviet Union, for part of the time that we're talking about, part of his planning was to bring in Far Eastern countries and apply their pressure to Russia as well, working together with Poland. I believe rather notably with the 1905 revolution and a number of other aspects there. I'm thankful to, oh, damn it. Who is it? We just did the Okrana stream together, and he turned me on to all of this. Oh, hell. I'm old and I can't remember at the moment. There's so many damn names, and all of them have these like 17th century figures as icons. Forgive me, my friend. Anyway, the point is that the fact that Poland is turning to the Far East for weapons deals is significant. It's very likely that the Koreans, who are going to cut these deals with them for self-propelled howitzers and some tanks, as I recall, as well, they're very likely going to be willing to develop an indigenous arms industry in Poland in cooperation with Poland. So they sign these contracts, and it's very likely that many of these things are going to be produced in Poland itself. So Poland is going to be doing all kinds of arming. So let's see here what they have for details. This year, Poland will spend 4% of its GDP on defense, an amount that doubles the NATO requirement, and it will make Poland the biggest per capita spender on defense in the NATO alliance. Some of the deals for new equipment predate the Ukraine war. Okay, here we go. Let's skip all this bullshit. So what are we looking at here? They're supposed to be ramping up to 1,000 K2 main battle tanks. They've already got 1,000 of these Borsuks, I guess, if we're talking about what they're going to get versus what they have. No, this is probably what they're aiming for. But you guys can see the figures here. You can go to the record of the article to find out more, but you can see that they've got 250 Abrams tanks that they either have or hope to have, another 116, I think, of an older version of them. They've got some multiple rocket launch systems, again, main battle tanks, self-propelled howitzers, 96 AH-64Es. They're going to be getting a number of these FA-50 fighter aircraft, and they're going for 18 of these HIMARS launchers. So Poland is definitely ramping it up. So they want to double the size of the Polish army to 300,000. That would make it Europe's biggest military power in terms of manpower, west of Ukraine, notably. And it looks like the UK is also talking about building an arms factory with them in collaboration. So basically, this is going to require a whole bunch of money from Poland to make it happen. And that sort of brings us to another angle here, which is the utter gutting of Germany. Do I have another article on this? Let me see here. Oh no, that's just them giving fighter jets. Where was it? I thought there was a good one on. Where is it? Let me just check, ladies and gents. Let's see if I can pull it up. One on the economic angle. Sorry, I thought I had it queued up to go. Poland. Let's see what they come up with. No, let's see. Poland sources. Nope, that's that crap about the MiG 29s. Poland, Germany. Let's see if that pulls it up. This is part of it. Oh yeah, I did have it up already. Yeah. Okay. So to pay for all of this gear and to ramp up their military, Poland is going to have to do some things economically. And so we're seeing an attempt to shift the balance of power in Europe, the sort of industrial anchor of it, from Germany, which just got ass raped in terms of its industrial capacity with the destruction of the Nord Stream pipelines, partial, almost complete destruction of the Nord Stream pipelines. They just can't seem to figure out who those six mysterious people, one chick, right? They just can't figure out who they were on this yacht that was supposedly carrying, I don't know, 1,500 pounds or kilograms of explosives. Wacky thing. They just can't figure out, who it was. Poland is going to have to be in a much better economic position in order to play the role that its handlers have envisioned for it. So what do we have here? Poland is rapidly replacing Russia in providing supplies to Eastern Germany, a dynamic which could have long-lasting effects, writes Alessandro Bertoldi. Alessandro Bertoldi is the executive director of the Milton Friedman Institute. This is an opinion piece, so take it for what you will. For months, European institutions have been hoping to achieve Europe's independence from Russian supplies of energy and raw materials. Recently, however, actions from some EU states make us question the real existence of the highly vaunted European solidarity and good faith. Poland, in particular, is replacing Russia in providing supplies to Eastern Germany. The latter is losing its autonomy in the sourcing of raw materials, which hitherto was based on diversification and Nord Stream, and relies increasingly on Warsaw. The Polish government, taking advantage of such a situation, is pursuing an aggressive supply policy, effectively asserting itself as the market gatekeeper in Eastern Germany. Until a few months ago, Germany was perceived as the economic and political leader of the EU and the continent's economic engine. Now things are starting to change. As Berlin helplessly watches the destruction of the Nord Stream's pipelines and is forced to buy LNG at 6 times the price of Russian gas, its political clout is also gradually shrinking. But one thing is to abandon cheaper Russian gas to buy LNG from the United States. Another is to accept that Poland becomes a leading country, capable of dictating terms to the economies of countries in Central and Eastern Europe. What's happening is not coincidental, but rather a part of a scheme by the Polish government, and likely by parties other than the Polish government, endorsed by some international partners, which aims to replace Germany as Washington's primary interlocutor within the EU, taking advantage of the current contingency and using precisely the much criticized leverage arising from energy supplies. Further proof of the high level of tension Poland wants to keep in its relations with Germany is, for instance, the demand for 1.3 trillion from Berlin as compensation for the damage inflicted on the nation during the years of Nazi occupation. Now, I don't want to dig deep into the details on this, but the point is that as well as becoming a new sort of military keystone of NATO and GAE policy in Europe, or GA-AE policy in Europe, Poland is also going to have itself sort of, bootstrapped up in order to carry the cost of developing in this fashion, relative, in particular, to Germany. So this suggests to me, actually, I've been giving some thought to what to do next. I really want to do another stream with Charlemagne and with Prude and with MS as well. And it occurs to me that a good angle for that would be to look at Prometheanism, Piłsudski's strategy, specifically from the perspective of how it can be applied to Germany, how it was intended to be applied to Germany, because Piłsudski was a very intelligent and capable player. And as a result, he understood that Poland, as we've seen historically, the trans-European plane, tanks can roll quite easily in both directions, east and west, across it. Piłsudski was well aware that Germany was going to be a problem if Poland was to have a future. And so I don't doubt that considerable aspects of Prometheanism, or let us say, perhaps related strategies, because Prometheanism proper, I believe, applies to the Soviet Union and Russia. But I need to dig into it more deeply. I think a good follow-up Prometheanism stream would be to take a look at the thought that Piłsudski put into strategy vis-a-vis Germany, and to look at this situation again in Europe from that perspective. Because one thing that just keeps hitting me, and that has to be considered, that I think must be taken into account if all of this is going to make any sense, is that this is turning out to be just as much an attack on Germany, perhaps in some respects even more so than it is on Russia. Germany is taking it right in the fucking neck with all of this. And the prospects for Germany in the future do not look particularly good. So the rise of Poland entails, as its concomitant, at a minimum, the steep reduction in Germany's standing economically, politically, in terms of industry and the rest. So I think it's impossible to understand what's going on in Ukraine without understanding Prometheanism. That obviously means that it's impossible to understand it without looking at Poland. But I think likewise, we really have to look at what's being done to Germany as well. And as a Teuton, if not a German, MS would very likely be a good person to get on in that respect, to look at it from that perspective as well. So, yes, what will we turn to next, ladies and gentlemen? That's a basic thing on Poland. I think it shows us the general picture. The only other thing to add, sort of one of these in passing things, people like Charlemagne or Prudentialist who follow this kind of stuff daily, it's not going to be news to them. But for some of you that are not looking into this stuff as closely, let me see if I can put this up on screen again. Yeah, Poland is saying it's going to be the first NATO country to give fighter jets to Ukraine. Now, this isn't the business with the F-16s or whatever. They're going to be giving them MiG-29s. Apparently, the first group of these is going to amount to 4, from what it says here. I think it is 4. Yeah, 4 Soviet-made MiG-29 fighter jets. But I think he's saying that they have like 12 in total. Let's see. I read it in here somewhere. They're not saying any more in here. Am I missing it? Am I just spacing as I read over it? Yeah, it has about a dozen of the MiG-29s available that are mostly functional. But they're sending 4 immediately, and the rest of them, they said that they are going to service and prepare in order to turn them over to the Ukrainians. So you know, I don't know how many squadrons a total of 12 comes to. Um, and the Ukrainians already had any number of jets that have already been shot out of the air. So, you know, I don't know really what that's going to give them. Actually, you know, before, just in the sense of covering the general picture in Ukraine, it will probably be useful to just quickly recap this. Again, people like Charlemagne who follow this very, very closely, and probably a considerable percentage of you watching aren't going to get much out of this because you follow it closely. But I'm just going to do a quick review of the current situation there for people who don't follow it autistically. So this is Live UA Map. It is what it is. It's very much a pro-Ukraine, pro-Western source. But you should be able to get, I'll just use it as a guide here for the basic things that are going on. There's still a number of Russian forces concentrated in Belarus. They seem to be there to be a hanging threat and for undergoing training, and also to ensure that they don't get caught suddenly by Ukraine doing something funky coming across the border to destabilize Belarus. Belarus, by the way, is one of the countries that Piłsudski definitely definitely had identified to target in order to carve these blocks away from Russia. You can go back to our previous stream on Prometheanism, and if you do, you will see that that this business with Belarus is discussed there. You know, they had gone in trying to shake things up there, and Russia just said basically, we're not going to have it. And they got what's his name in Belarus on side, and now things seem to be fairly stable in that respect. It does not look like Belarus will be peeled off anytime soon. Otherwise, we just had a drone shot down, or not shot down, taken out by a passing Russian jet somewhere here over in the Black Sea. It passed over a MQ-9 Reaper drone with apparently a pretty fancy surveillance kit, and it basically pissed its fuel all over the drone before, as best I can tell. If anybody knows differently, you know, say it in the comments. But apparently, rolled right over it and popped its propeller, and it went down. The U.S. is trying to discuss it in terms of, you know, trying to keep things from escalating. They talk about how they brought it down intentionally. After that happened, the Russians are saying, well, we don't know what there were a number of very tight maneuvers. You have to understand that we don't know entirely what happened. We're terribly sorry. And the thing went down. The gossip now is that the Russians have recovered it. So we'll see what's going on with that. There's a discussion that in this area here with Zaporizhia and the rest, that Ukrainian forces are concentrating here because, you know, they talk about how they're going to do offensive to cut off the land bridge here and attempt to get to Crimea. There's continuing artillery duels over in the area of Kherson, I believe it is. The Russians, let's see if I can zoom in on this. The Russians are continuing to put pressure up here in Kupiansk and this whole area in the northern area of the front. They're apparently going after this Sherwood Forest area, and they're attempting to close off this area along this river. It's not the Oskol, it's the closer one. They're not showing updates on the map at this time, whether Western or Russian ones, but they've been putting a lot of pressure here, and there are considerable Ukrainian losses all along this area of the front. When you get over here to Bakhmut, there's a whole lot going on there as well, although the movement at present is not as fast as it was previously. If you want a detailed breakdown of what's been going on in here, I recommend, again, Charlemagne's recent stream. Tune into the second of those. He's talking with Furious, Pertinax, another friend, and they go into detail on the way in which this cauldron has developed. Now, what's interesting is that where is it? Down here in Avdiivka, there's also considerable Russian advances and development. Up here in Bakhmut, what you're mostly seeing is the Russian forces being unable to proceed as quickly as they have in the past in the north, but they're making progress in the south, where they have a considerable bridgehead here on the southern side, moving up and in. It's sort of the opposite case down here with Avdiivka, which everybody should be watching. This is a heavily fortified city. Here, however, in the south, the Russians are not making fast progress, though they've been trying. But they are making considerable progress in the north. So they're trying to hook around here and get Avdiivka in at least something like an operational encirclement. So those are two areas where we're really seeing major developments. Otherwise, there was an abortive series of Russian attacks on Ukledar. They are not, they have not been successful in any major sense, in a very small sense, and apparently at considerable cost. From what we can tell, it looks like the Russians improved their tactical position somewhat, but then were driven back from the best of those developments in that area. They continue to try to invest the town with artillery, but they've been pushed back for the time being, with considerable losses and nothing really to show for it from what we can tell. However, along this front, there have been some interesting developments recently just in this area. The Ukrainians lost a number of tanks. The various people who follow this very closely day by day seem to think that the Ukrainians are in fact going to try something here. The thing is that now we're not talking about Kherson or Kharkov, where Russians were thinly spread. They've got at least 3 lines of defense in this area, and they seem to be prepped for an advance. So we'll have to see what's happening. Otherwise, over here with Kherson, no idea what's happening. There just seem to be reports of continuing artillery duels. This area is interesting mainly for me because the Ukrainians have now been again threatening to move in on Transnistria. We'll look at some headlines about that in just a moment. But if something goes down with Transnistria, I think it would be a mistake on the West's part, because it will provide Russia with a pretext to attempt to do something across this area. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that Russia is in any sense guaranteed to be effective. I have no idea what they have planned. It's entirely possible that, as things stand at present, Russia might not be able to do a great deal to help out with the situation in Transnistria if the Western forces decide to really hammer it. But it will definitely throw Moldova into a tailspin. So I bring this up just because we're going to be looking at some headlines about Moldova and this quote unquote breakaway region of Transnistria. And to understand, to put those headlines in context, it's important to recognize that reports suggest that the Ukrainians have concentrated here and are gesturing in such a fashion that they're likely to go after Transnistria, and that is likely to pull Moldova into this mess with considerable destabilization. Now, this has been brewing for a long time, and I'm one of the first people that I'm aware of on the dissident right that's been talking about Moldova. I've been doing it for more than a year. In hell, in other contexts, I've talked about it for longer than that as being something to bear in mind as an aspect of Russian strategy, likely future strategy that we should bear in mind. We should also be considering Abkhazia and Georgia. We've got South Ossetia and Abkhazia here. These are likely to be things that we're going to see more of. We're going to take a look as well at Armenia so that we can put that into context as well, because all of this bears on a sort of Promethean strategy. Though it was interesting, a guy I follow over on Twitter, Matt, pointed out that early on, Azerbaijan was not included in the early planning for Prometheanism, according to some of the early publications. So that's generally what's going on the ground here. The only other thing I should add here is that Russia recently did one of its, intermittent missile strikes, anywhere from 1 to 4 or 5 times a month. And the thing that's notable about it is that they used a fair number of their Kinjal hypersonic missiles, which hammered the shit out of a number of things. And as we should expect, the air defense could do fuck all about it. So it seems that Russia has ramped up a production of these Kinjal missiles. And so we should bear that in mind for what's been going on here recently, and what it suggests about the prospects for the future, because certainly they're not running out of them. Okay, so let's jump over to some headlines. What do we want to start with? Let's take a look at Moldova. So we get all kinds of reports that the Russians are planning to destabilize Moldova. Well, fucking of course they are. That's why they kept Transnistria since as early as 1991. But what's important here, and what you will see as a theme that emerges, is the fact that everybody's talking about Russia doing secret shit and agitating and destabilizing countries. And as a consequence, the internal security forces of these countries are having to mobilize to remove the problems. Basically, and I'm sure that's true. You can go back months and you will see that I was talking about how this was going to be a problem. But I think it's absolutely unreasonable to imagine that it's just the NATO good guys who are, just trying to come in and make sure that they can stay stable and, keeping the world safe for democracy. This is a pretext for many of them that puts them, many of the NATO installed governments in these countries, it puts them in a great position to just come in and round up the people that they think are going to be a problem and remove them. So while I'm absolutely sure, and as I said months ago, I opined that this sort of thing was going to be going on, it's not just that Russia's doing things, it's also that these NATO puppet governments are going after the Russian puppet assets. Right, so you're seeing this sort of thing get fought out, so to speak, behind the scenes, as we'll see reflected in the stuff that's been going on in Georgia. So here you can see, secret Russian document outlines plans for destabilizing Moldova. A secret plan drawn up by Russia's security service lays out detailed options to destabilize Moldova, including supporting pro-Russian groups, utilizing the Orthodox Church, and threatening to cut off supplies of natural gas. So it's what you would expect. Let's see what some of these other headlines have to say about it. Al Jazeera comes in, says, as war rages in Ukraine, are we about to see Moldova, break out with conflict? Russia says the West wants to turn Moldova against Moscow, as Ukraine claims the Kremlin wants to control the small landlocked nation. Energy prices are astronomically high. Inflation has jumped above 30%, and elderly Moldovans receive utility bills that are larger than their pensions. Moldova faces a civil conflict, pro-Russian sources say, while their pro-Western opponents call the crises a hybrid war instigated by Moscow to force the nation of 2.6 million back into the Kremlin's political orbit. So, yeah, they're still going after Moldova. Now, a short time ago, the leader of Moldova, some chick, got replaced. And at first, just superficially, being aware of it and seeing the headline, I was thinking, well, okay, Russia pulled a lever. No, that does not seem to be the case. It seems as though NATO powers removed the woman who is in charge and replaced her with someone even more hardline, even more willing to move forward and talk about, settling the stuff with Transnistria once and for all. So, yeah, the government of Moldova fell, but it was based on NATO putting pressure on it to get someone even more hardline in. So that's important to be aware of. One thing to look at in that respect is Moldovan parliament has dealt with a language issue. And, oddly enough, that language issue really comes down to stating that the language in Moldova is not Moldovan, which, to be honest, really is just, as best I can tell, Romanian with a Cyrillic alphabet. But they've made moves here to go, I think, with the declaration of their independence rather than their constitution, and call it Romanian. The bottom line is what it means, at the end of the day, is that Moldova will now officially be calling its language Romanian, which puts it in a much better position to be absorbed, for example, by Romania in future. And everyone should be aware, if you're not, I'll tell you now, that the seat for the Black Sea Command of NATO is in Romania. And Romania seems to be very firmly in NATO's grip. So this could easily be read as a precede to set the stage for Moldova to be absorbed by Romania. Not saying it's going to happen, but I'm not saying it's not. So yeah, that's something to bear in mind. Now, where was it here? I think it's with Transnistria. Yeah. Now, meanwhile, Transnistria, the breakaway region of Moldova, has accused Ukraine of trying to kill its president, the president of this tiny little breakaway nation. Let's see what AP has to tell us about this. Moldova's breakaway region of Transnistria, which has close ties to Moscow and hosts Russian troops, claimed Thursday it has thwarted an assassination attempt on its president, allegedly organized by Ukraine's National Security Service. Transnistria's state security ministry said an unspecified number of people had been arrested in connection with an attempted attack on the region's president, Vadim Krasnoselsky, and other officials. Prosecutor Anatoly Guretsky said the suspects planned to detonate an explosives-packed automobile near the presidential cortege as it traveled through the capital Tiraspol. It said Ukraine's SBU security service ordered the assassination attempt, but did not provide evidence. The SBU, for its part, rejected the allegations, saying it should be considered exclusively as a provocation orchestrated by the Kremlin. So, separatist war broke out in 1990 in Transnistria, a strip of land with about 470,000 residents that borders Ukraine. As part of a ceasefire in 1992, a contingent of Russian troops remains there as nominal peacekeepers. So, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, it is likely that Ukraine, or it's at least possible, and the hints are there, the signals have been sent. Here's Moldova, right? And here's this breakaway region outlined in red, and we have indications that there's been some concentration of Ukrainian forces in this area and that they might move into Transnistria. So you can see everybody's nuts getting all tight and everybody's buttholes puckering up because shit could break out here soon. And if it does, shit is most certainly going to break out in Moldova, and doing things like declaring the Moldovan language not to be Moldovan, but to be Romanian, which, again, apparently the Declaration of Independence for Moldova already calls it that, but they're now saying that the Declaration of Independence should supersede the Constitution in terms of what the language should be called. One wonders why they're doing it at this time. Well, all signs indicate that it has to do with prepping for Romania to come in and get more involved in Moldova. The brother of the Romanians, these, fellow Romanian speakers will come in and save the day with NATO's support. Well, that brings us over to what's been going on over here in Georgia. Things are very interesting there, as best I can tell. I've not followed it super closely, so people who know more about it can come in and and provide more details. There's a lot to keep track of here, and I have not followed it all closely, but it seems, as best I understand it, that the parliament, which does not seem to be as thoroughly controlled by NATO, the parliament came in and tried to pass some kind of legislation that would put significant controls on NGOs operating in the country. And, next thing you know, you had all kinds of people appear in the street with rainbow flags and fat people dancing and, the usual deal, talking about, the terrible abuses of the Romanian government. And they rioted, and excuse me, not Romanian, Georgian. They rioted, and some sort of Georgian internal security forces came out and controlled it. In the end, as I understand it, the parliament was forced to withdraw that. I think what you've got going on in Georgia is a parliament that's not controlled by NATO, but a president or prime minister or whatever, forgive me, I should be more up on this, but who is more in control of NATO. I think what we're seeing here, let's see if there's anything else that's more recent on Georgia. That's Bulgaria. Let's get over here to Georgia. Right. What does Foreign Policy Magazine have to say about it? Inquiring minds want to know. Come now, my shitty 4G connection. Russia is furious at Georgia's protesters. Moscow issues ominous threats as Georgians fight for their imperiled democracy. Stunning and brave. Oh, they just happen to have shitloads of Ukrainian and EU flags that they carried out into the streets. They just must have had them in their basements, like Georgians do. They just happen to have shitloads of EU flags in their basements. They're like, Mr. Dadiani, can I get those 20 EU flags that you have in your basement? Nothing suspicious about that at all. No trouble on the bridge of the Old Christian. Last week, the Georgian parliament, led by the Georgian Dream Party, advanced new legislation that would label civil society and media organizations that receive at least 20% of their funding from foreign entities as foreign agents. In addition to the stigma of such a label, the government would be able to conduct investigations, access personal data, demand detailed reporting, and levy restrictions, fines, and prison sentences. Sovereignty. It would be able to exercise sovereignty on media and civic groups deemed to be non-compliant. The legislation closely resembles the Russian Foreign Agents Act, which the European Court of Human Rights found violated freedom of association and assembly and effectively handicapped the country's civil sector. So, that's what they tried to do. And it didn't work. The public outrage was ginned up. And this article observes that 2 days after the law was passed, its first hearing in Parliament, the government withdrew it, at least temporarily, and has since released the arrested protesters. So the fight is on in Georgia. And I think what's happening, and I think we're going to see this as we look at several of these other countries, I think what's going on is everybody's fucking waiting. Everyone's waiting. They don't know what the hell is going to happen, but things are not looking so good for Ukraine, and more accurately, their NATO handlers. So these other countries are sitting on the sidelines going, meh, I'm not sure I'm ready to move yet. Moldova is so poor and so small that NATO might be able to push something there. They're clearly trying to do so in places like Georgia, but I think these countries are waiting it out to see what the hell happens next, because in any one of these situations, so goes my speculation, and all you have here is my speculation. Who's this fucking cunt, man? Excuse me. Fucking cunt. I'm sorry, I want to block you as well. Go away, cunt. What generally happens in these situations when you have major powers being brought to bear on a small country, right, is you have a certain number of people, for example, in Georgia, who are going to have their eggs all in the basket of Russia, and they know what side their bread is buttered on. So they're going to be like, go Russia, right? We want Russia. Georgia's future only lies with Russia, right? And then you're going to have a certain number of people who are going to be like, no, rainbow colored dildos, or, if I don't have rainbow colored dildos, then everything's going to break down. We're totally for the EU. We're totally for getting involved with NATO. We're pro-Ukraine. I don't think that people could start cutting their tits off soon enough, right? So you'll have these two extreme sort of poles, but in between, you will have just people who want to get on with their lives. And if you sat down and asked them, do you want Russia? Do you want EU? They would say, who's going to give me fucking bread without, sawdust in it? And that's what it really comes down to. So you've got the two extremes and they're pushing hard, but in places like Georgia, and likewise, I think in places like Armenia, as we'll shortly see, very likely in places like Bulgaria, there are actual power players who are in the middle, who are waiting to see what the issue of what the results of the conflict in Ukraine are going to be before they make their decision. So I think you're seeing a lot of people with their nuts locked, just waiting to see what's going to happen. And I think that accounts for the fact that even under pressure from Russia and from NATO and the EU, tiny countries like Georgia are managing to still kind of with considerable discomfort to walk a sort of center line to try to stay out of the mess. So I think that accounts for why you're seeing these forces go back and forth, but we're not seeing a clear sort of emergence of any one dominant group of players. Now, that could change tomorrow. Maybe I've read this wrong. Again, I'm not a specialist in these areas. People who are paying more attention, feel free to jump in the comments. So, yeah, that's a quick review. Oh, one other thing I should say about the Georgians. Let me just add in here. Is in terms of Abkhazia and South Ossetia, I have been hearing, I cannot confirm this, it's anecdotal, but it's from people in the area who pay attention to such things, that in the midst of all the recent upheaval in Georgia with the protests and the rest, people were getting out there and saying that we must reclaim Abkhazia tomorrow. And there were probably similar utterances as regards South Ossetia. So that's another thing to look at, the idea that something could break loose with South Ossetia and with Abkhazia. I think Russia is probably trying to, for the most part, not deal with that right now because it has its attention focused elsewhere. I think what NATO is probably trying to do is to foment upheaval in these places, Georgia, South Ossetia, Abkhazia, judging from the number of scumbags that I've seen in, posting to as reply guys and things with Circassians. I'm seeing a bunch of Circassians appear, blathering about NATO shit, and not NATO shit, but, pro-Ukraine stuff. And there's a lot of agitation going on in the North and South Caucasus, it seems. Russia probably doesn't want to get involved there now for obvious reasons. NATO, the EU, the United States, they probably do want to get Russia bogged down in secondary theaters in order to divide their attention and split their forces. I think, again, what's probably happening in these smaller countries is that the people in the middle, the power players in the middle who exercise significant sway over which way the country goes, I think all of them are just waiting to see what the hell is going to happen in Ukraine. Because if Russia comes out of Ukraine doing very, very well, and these other countries have been, when the cat's away, the mice will play, and Russia turns back around, they're going to be, handing out hammer blows as ways of saying, thank you for trying to fuck me when I was distracted. So I think everyone's being careful about that. I think that is reflected with what is going on in Armenia. So I'm not going to open up all of these articles. I just read them in preparation for this discussion. I'm no expert on Armenia, but as best I can tell what's going on, you had Azerbaijan come in with Turkish backing, which means in some sense NATO support, whether it was kept quiet or not. Israeli support too, in respect of a number of military technologies. And Azerbaijan went into the contested Nagorno-Karabakh area and pushed the Armenians back in a number of respects. And then finally, Russia came in and said, whoa, wait. No. And they came in as peacekeepers. But now what's happening here, I'll open this up. I said I wasn't going to do it, but I will. The Armenian prime minister has come in and said that, there are problems with your peacekeeping, Putin. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan said Tuesday he had complained to President Vladimir Putin about problems with Russian peacekeepers in Nagorno-Karabakh, warning of an escalation in the restive Caucasus region. Armenia and Azerbaijan have fought 2 wars for control of the Armenian majority region, and the latest conflict in 2020 ended with the deployment of Moscow's forces. Now, this is coming from the Moscow Times. Okay, so this is, I don't know if this is pro or anti-Russian, frankly. It's in English, so might well be anti-Russian. Pashinyan's comments are the latest sign that Armenia, which relies on Russia as a security guarantor, is growing frustrated with the Kremlin, whose attention is focused on Ukraine and confrontation with the West. Quote, in a phone conversation with Putin yesterday, I spoke of a possible escalation in Nagorno-Karabakh and said that there are problems in the zone where Russian peacekeepers are responsible, Pashinyan said during a press conference. Where is the claim of waning influence? Last week, Yerevan refused to assume the rotating top post in the security bloc. Here they're referring to the Collective Security Treaty Organization, which has a number of former Soviet states involved. Last week, Yerevan refused to assume the rotating top post in the security bloc, partly in a show of frustration over the peacekeepers' failure to prevent Karabakh's blockade. The blockade in Karabakh is very cunningly put together by the Western forces. It's a bunch of environmentalists who've blockaded the road so that Armenia cannot get access, and they claim to be doing so to protect the environment and stop some sort of mining from going on, if I remember correctly. So it's basically a pile of bullshit, right? But I think what's going on here in Armenia is that Russia is staying out of it for the most part right now. They've got peacekeepers in there, and they're saying, look, here it is. We'll just wait it out. Be patient with us, right? I think that's what's going on behind the scenes, speculation. Armenian leadership is saying, we're getting screwed here. We stuck with you, Russia. Azerbaijan did not. We, however, stuck with you. We've got our eggs in your basket, and you are not helping us. I think, speculation, I think what's going on is that Russia is navigating its own narrow line as regards Turkey. And I think Turkey is very carefully watching what is going on in Ukraine, because as a fellow Black Sea power and as a country very interested in being a transit point for energy, it's watching closely what's going on. If Russia comes out on top in Ukraine, that means that Russia is going to be playing a leading role with the development of Black Sea oil and natural gas. So I think Turkey has kind of held off on a number of things that it could be doing to make Russia's life more difficult. In exchange, Turkey's got a number of its own problems, which are grave. It's getting a fair amount of support from Russia. And so I think what's happening as regards to the Azerbaijan and Armenia thing is Russia's just saying, look, let's not touch it right now. We don't want to piss Turkey off. Let sleeping dogs lie. Armenia is saying, but we're getting fucked here. And Russia's like, look, just wait. So I think there's a lot of this just wait that's going on in the Caucasus right now. And so I believe what's happening is Armenia's prime minister, or whatever the fuck he is, president, I can't remember. He's basically saying, we're not going anywhere yet. When asked, somebody said basically, are you leaving the CSTO? Yeah, what's the quote? It's not that Armenia is leaving the CSTO. Again, that's the Collective Security Treaty Organization, which is Russia dominated, right? He said, it's not that Armenia is leaving the CSTO. The CSTO is leaving Armenia, which is of great concern to us, Pashinyan said. So this sounds very much like an Armenian in the Grand Bazaar. He's like, what do you want me to do? I need a better price. My children will starve. You must. He's negotiating because the Armenians right now are in a very shitty position. So he's keeping his options open. That's something to bear in mind. Now, what else did we need to look at here? I want to look at Bulgaria. And what else? I had something else up here. Yeah, let's take a quick look at Kazakhstan. And then we can probably wrap this up where I can take questions. Yeah, okay, so let's take a look first at Bulgaria. I cannot fully tell what's going on with Bulgaria. It looks like... As an American, I love my apple juice. My apple juice. Oh, it's fucking delightful. I cannot tell entirely what's going on with Bulgaria. I think, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, and hopefully I'll stop looking at these screens and I can actually review the comments here. I think what happened with Bulgaria is they had a pro-NATO government in, and the former Russian-backed powers that be said, fuck you very much. We can bring your government down and force you to bring us back in. I think that's what happened. But the result of all of that struggle in Bulgaria is still not entirely clear. But Bulgaria does seem to be a country that is not as thoroughly in the grip of NATO as, for example, Romania. That's another one I should take a quick look. We should all quickly take a look at Serbia as well. We'll do that before this is over. So let's see here. Romania and Bulgaria signed a strategic partnership to strengthen cooperation. I think that's basically NATO and the rest coming and saying, well, we need some Gibbs. Let's put some Gibbs in front of them, right? It's just a bunch of nonsense about the Jewish population in Bulgaria because there's some sort of commemorative holiday, some date that's going on now that has to do with Tsar Boris and a bunch of nonsense that I don't fully understand. Ministry of Finance, Bulgaria is facing bankruptcy. There is risk for the Bulgarian currency versus the euro and their exchange rate. Bulgarian factories and secret task forces, how the West hunts for Soviet arms. Commissioner Breton's visit to Bulgaria met with suspicion. What is this? Who's Commissioner Breton? EU Internal Market Commissioner Terry Breton's visit to Breton's visit to Bulgaria on Wednesday, 15th of March, unleashed speculation that the country is being pressured to send ammunition supplies to Ukraine, a particularly sensitive subject just 2 weeks before a snap election. Okay, so what's going on is they're going to have some sort of snap election coming up very soon. And my guess is that the various EU powers that be are coming in and they're, waving carrots and waving sticks. So given that I don't have a really any kind of comprehensive understanding of what's going on in Bulgaria, I think we need to wait and see what's going on with that snap election. But I'll guarantee you that every fucking Western spook and every Russian one that they can mobilize in Bulgaria is very busy right now. Here's one from Reuters. This is a bit old, February 17th, saying Bulgaria scrapped its January 2024 target for adopting the euro. Now let's just look here about the elections. Let's see who's on offer. Shall we, ladies and gentlemen? Who is on offer? 2 candidate MPs from fringe parties face fines for hate speech. Bulgaria's Central Election Commission. Wait a minute. I want to know about who could be elected. I don't care if just 2 of them got fines for hate speech. Who is this? This is funny. In the courts of the complaints this is funny, so I'm just going to say it even though it's not entirely germane. The complaints involved Ventsislav Angelov of the Truth and Only Truth Party and Boyan Rasate of the Bulgarian National Union, New Democracy Party. No opinion poll ahead of Bulgaria's April 2nd early parliamentary elections suggests that either of these parties had support that would bring them anywhere near the threshold for a share of seats in the next parliament. In the course of Bulgarian National Television's March 10th weekly panorama program, Angelov said, "The gallows will come and we will stretch them on the yellow cobblestones. And you should warn Rumen Radev, Boyko Borisov, and Delyan Pivsky and all the Zionist scum that a new Nuremberg trial is coming." Angelov went on to say, "I call on all Zionist satanic scum and Zionists from the small state of Israel to leave Bulgaria." Angelov is a former traffic policeman and former nightclub owner with a record of criminal charges, including disorderly conduct, cigarette contraband, failure to comply with bankruptcy laws, and narcotics dealing. He has spent time in prison for the latter. Okay, well, that should give you a colorful little snapshot of the fringes of the upcoming Bulgarian elections. Let's see here. Let's just see Bulgaria elections. Let's see. We can see anything more about what's about to happen in this colorful country. This is from your Observer, EU Observer. So you know what you're going to get with that. Bulgaria's never-ending doom loop of elections. After 5 elections in just 2 years, Bulgarian voters' confidence in political parties has exponentially shrunken. At the beginning of April, Bulgaria will be holding its 5th parliamentary elections in less than 2 years. Not even Israel, with the same number of elections, but in 4 years, or Spain, with 4 in 4 years, come close to the frequency with which Bulgarians are called to the polls. Okay. I would have to dig into this too much in order to summarize it quickly. So let's just say, put a question mark on Bulgaria, but it's important vis-a-vis all of this stuff, not least because of Danube access. But we're going to have to see what happens come April in Bulgaria. So what did we want to check? We wanted to also have a look at Kazakhstan. Russia, I think, is being very careful with Kazakhstan. They have a considerable Russian population. Is it Western Kazakhstan, Northwestern, North or Western or Northwestern, somewhere in there? And some of them have been agitating for Russia to come in and do a number like they did in the Donbass. Russia seems to be very hands-off with that because they want to maintain good relations with Kazakhstan. Also, it's kind of a key to relationships with all these other former Soviet Central Asian stands. So I don't think Russia is going to come in there with guns blazing. But I just want to see if there's any headlines here, because this Kazakhstan is another country that was very much targeted under Pilsudski's doctrine for Promethean interventions. It looks like there's some military personnel changes under Tokayev. In the wake of Kandi Kantar, Kazakh President Tokayev shut up the military brass. Where do things stand now? So it looks like the current Kazakh president is replacing the military, which presumably, I mean, you'd have to guess, is a matter of shoring up his own position. It looks like there's a whole lot going on with Kazakhstan impounding some Russian property at the Baikonur Cosmodrome. This seems like just kind of a fuck you, give us what we want type thing, but I haven't dug into it deeply. Looks like they're about to have parliamentary elections in Kazakhstan. Yeah, so their Majlis election will be March 19th. What are we, just 3 days out from that? So let's come back. We'd have to come back to Kazakhstan as well as Bulgaria. All bets are off at present. Now, what else did I want to look at before I will turn to questions? Let me see what I can find under Serbia. Just because I want to know what's going on in Serbia. Okay. Well, we got an opinion piece in the Washington Post saying a peace deal in the Western Balkans could push Russia out of the region. We've got Serbia's far right seizes on Putin's war to push retaking Kosovo. We got Euractiv a week ago saying Serbia gives definite no to Kosovo recognition and NATO accession. 9 hours ago on Euronews, we have Vučić saying reconciliation between Albanians and Serbs is Kosovo goal. So, European Council on Foreign Relations from yesterday says the politics of dialogue, how the EU can change the conversation in Kosovo and Serbia. 2 days ago in the Hindustan Times, we have Putin's government rebukes West amid row in Serbia over minister's anti-Russian remark. 10 hours ago from oilprice.com, U.S. says Kosovo and Serbia could be close to normalizing relations. Ooh, what's this now? This is tangible. What does this say? EBRD. What is the EBRD? Provides $300 million to Serbia's electricity sector. What is the EBRD? European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Okay, so it looks like what we got here, talking about how there could be a reconciliation and there might be money on offer for your electrical sector. Radio Free Europe says Western Balkans can celebrate big step if Kosovo, Serbia agree on document. U.S. envoy says deal between Serbia and Kosovo entirely possible. 12 hours ago, European Union official praises Serbia's migration moves. Yeah, so it looks like what's going on here is they want to, the European Union certainly, and NATO as well, because you're dealing with Kosovo, which has a big ass U.S. base in it, if I remember correctly. It looks like they're pushing hard to do something with Serbia right now in order to shore up the situation there and take that off of the group of concerns that they have to deal with. And it seems like Serbia is just basically saying, how big is the carrot? So, yeah, we're going to have to come back in here and see, what is this Politico saying? It all seems to be happening right now. Basically, if this goes through, it looks like it would be a definitive move to remove Russian influence and promise Serbia that they could come into the civilized countries. Zeiten? I think it's Zeiten. No, Zeiten? The E and the I versus the I and the E with German is so fucking obnoxious. Zeiten or Zeitenwende for the Western Balkans, whatever the fuck that means. The region's countries have had to live with their unresolved issues and disputes for far too long, and the time for bold decisions has arrived. Indeed it has. Russia's war against Ukraine has caused existing European security architecture to fall apart, provoking fundamental changes in foreign and defense policies across the continent. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like they're moving now. So what do we have? We have Mejlis elections in Kazakhstan. We have elections in Bulgaria coming up in a matter of days. And it looks like they're moving fast and hard to get something resolved with Serbia. So, yeah, I think it's impossible at this point to get a read on any of these things because, you know, people are paying off election officials and paying people to come out to vote, doubtless installing their versions of Dominion voting machines. But all of this, I guess, in summary, goes to show that this band of countries associated with Russia, that I said we should watch carefully many months back, we're seeing the situations play out there, and it looks like they're very much playing out right now. Right when things in Ukraine are at a critical pass. So we'll get to see now which countries get offered a big enough carrot at present to go ahead and make the shift, or at least pretend to. I can't imagine they're offering big carrots without like guarantees that countries really do shift over. Serbia is in a bad position because Montenegro has been peeled off. They've lost their sea access. Other countries are, you know, will literally tell what's his name, the Lavrov, that he can't fly over their airspace in order to come to Serbia. So Serbia is very much isolated. We'll see. Bulgaria, I think Russia is still. I think Bulgaria is fucking crooked enough, and Russia is canny enough that they can still pull a rabbit out of their hat in Bulgaria. Serbia, they might have been swallowed by the Borg. We'll see. Yeah, so that's a general summary of these various countries that are a part of this broader overarching picture. This pretty much covers the material that I wanted to review and the general picture we're dealing with at present. Again, I want to suggest that everybody go and check out the Prometheanism streams that I did with a Charlemagne Prudentialist and MS, which provide context for this. And it looks like we have a little bit of time. Excuse me. Let's just see if we have any questions here. I have not been able to follow the chat entirely. So let me see. If you have questions for me, stick a big fat @Semiagog on it so that I can see it. And I will attempt to address it, but from here going forward. So if you posted questions earlier, and are they relevant to this stream, right? Don't ask me questions about crazy bullshit. This is a stream focused on reviewing the Russia conflict material. Go ahead and ask them now. Any questions? Lord of Fleck is already breaking the rules. I have not yet fixed my damn big block oyster date, so no wristwatches. No wristwatches. Not around the house. It's a pain in the ass, especially when you got a phone on your clock on your phone. All right. Any questions? People saying I'm wearing a nice hat on stream. This is an antique, entirely an antique, made 100% by hand. It probably dates from the end of the 19th or the beginning of the 20th century. It is from the Caucasus, and I picked it up in the Grand Bazaar. I had to negotiate it for it. It's proper fine astragan of the style worn across the Caucasus. A very fine hat indeed. One of two good astragan hats I have. I hope to get another one. Now, questions, ladies and gentlemen. Any questions? Anyone else? I'm waiting. Nutria for kiss my ass guy from V. Ain't no damn Nutria. All right. Questions, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't have them, I'm just going to sip this drink and consider the desert of existence. Save me, ladies and gentlemen, from staring into the abyss. Okay, Joshua Ham. Hello, sir. Good to see you. Regarding the Balkans, apparently 20% of working age male Albanians have migrated to UK. Wonder what they know about local politics in the region. Care to make a hypothesis? I mean, I don't have much direct experience with Albanians. Um, I've met a few who are very interesting and totally straight up people. I got some help with linguistics recently from an Albanian, and they seem like just fine people. On the other hand, there were the Albanians that I saw in the quick market or whatever when I was visiting my relatives in Greece, and yeah, they looked like gangsters out of a Kusturica film or something. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't leave them alone with my sister, if that's what you're asking. In terms of what they know about local politics in the region, my guess is that it's as corrupt as it always is in many areas of the Balkans. Sadly, though, I don't know a great deal about Albania or Albanians. Didn't they have a King Zog, though? I think they had a King Zog. Metal Gandalf. Semiagog, how can Ukraine survive any longer? Their casualties are mounting. Will there even be a nation left after the war? Well, yeah, but it might be a rump state. And it's certainly within the realm of possibility that Russia comes in and rolls them up all the way, in terms of everything east of the Dnieper. At which point they will really, in effect, become like a sort of, as my buddy Tim used to put it, a kind of vermiform appendix hanging off of Poland. So yeah, I don't know. Just remember, the Ukraine, as observed in previous streams, all the expression means is the borderland. The name of the country is borderland, which shows you that the claim to it being a unified country is a little more tenuous than most countries that try to break out in that fashion. Prism. Hello, sir. Good to see you. If you had to bet, he asks, if you had to bet, how do you think the Ukraine-Russia situation will ultimately resolve? I'm in the exact same place I was at the beginning. I have not changed my my prognostications in the slightest. I believe that the odds are, how did I put it, that Russia will be in the best position to claim to have met its victory criteria. I think in the end, it's going to suck for both countries. And in some respects, the U.S. is going to win regardless who comes out on top. But, the easiest way to put it is I think Russia will win. The reason that I put the qualifications on it and say things like they'll have the best claim to having met their victory conditions or to be able to show that they did what they set out to do at the beginning is because I don't think anybody wins in this war. I think it's a horrific thing. I think the people who have fomented this, who've caused it, that they should have their own little version of a Nuremberg trial. I think it's horrific, but it's the usual, way things roll. The rich get richer and the poor get youngins. And in this case, under a modified, version of Prometheanism brought down to date, the United States and NATO have exploited the nationalist impulses of Ukraine, and they're just pumping them in as cannon fodder. The Russians, for their part, said, no, thank you. We'll do this on the territory of Ukraine rather than Russia, since it seems unavoidable that you're going to force us to do this. But in the end, it's just white people killing white people, which I'm not into, even if they're Slavs. I don't like it. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, as they like to say, Russia is going to be the one that is going to be able to lay the most convincing claim to having met their victory conditions and their goals. But I could be wrong. And, NATO's behind this. There's still a very real possibility of escalation and NATO putting boots on the ground. I've heard the arguments against it. They're convincing. But at the same time, I look at it and I'm like, these motherfuckers are willing to destroy any number of nations' economic prospects for years to come in order to push this. And I just saw what they did with US elections. I just saw what they did with British elections. I just saw for several years what they did to half or more of the earth with their COVID restrictions. So at this point, I will not put anything past them. We could see NATO boots on the ground there. I mean, beyond the ones that are already there. There are significant numbers of Polish troops, I'm convinced. Can't prove it. It's just speculation. And also the volunteer forces, are considerable, those volunteers. So this is already a NATO war with Russia. It's just not as complete a NATO war with Russia as there could be. But we'll see, man. We'll see. It could go either way, but I think odds are that Russia will emerge with the best claim to be able to say it was victorious, even though in the end, everybody's fucked. Miserable Old Sod, hello, sir, says Semigog, do you think the Russians have recovered the U.S. drone? Yeah, I think they probably have. But who knows? I don't know enough about, what kind of technology is available to track the trajectory on an object that changes its course suddenly and drops into the sea, but I'd have to guess with positioning, they can get pretty accurate with it. So yeah, I think probably they do have it. Brian Boros says, Semigog, regarding Ukraine, win or lose, what is Ukraine going to look like? Half the population's left, and I doubt they're going to come back. Depends what's on offer. A bunch of them rolled into Poland, and the Poles are going to have to accommodate them. I think there is every possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it is a real possibility that Russia does take everything east of the Dnieper, and that Poland, either officially or unofficially, becomes the power that administers what remains. So that doesn't mean that they won't call the state Ukraine, and that that they won't have a so-called independent government. But Poland could be there in the background, pulling the strings economically and the rest, and behind Poland, indeed, a further group of handlers. But I don't know, man. I do know that there is a lot that I do not know about the region. And if I were to sit down across from like a Polish version of myself, I would be disabused of any number of misapprehensions I have about the politics and the facts on the ground. I just don't have a resource of that sort, that I can talk to in Poland, who can bring me up to speed on it. But that's my guess as it stands. Not sure says, Semigog, if Armenia decides to backdoor Turkey, would Greece help? I don't know what that means, but if you're talking about like Armenia decides to like get involved in extending the conflict, it can't, that it already can't win with Azerbaijan to Turkey, which is one of the largest NATO armies. Would Greece help? No, not unless they're like smoking crack. Not unless they're like deep into some like debauchery with drugs and shit that's like out of some kind of like Hunter S. Thompson novel. No. Jonathan Hill says, Semigog, will Hungary crumble in their veto for Nordic states' entry into NATO? What is Orban's motivation or the veto? Yeah, I don't know. Orban is very, very careful. He's got to walk a fine line. I don't know. And as best I remember, Turkey has withdrawn its approval after that entirely emergent, spontaneous, just sudden, just random happening of that Quran getting desecrated. Just must have been an accident. I don't even know if it will come down to Hungary's decision, but I haven't been following that closely. So yeah, I wish I could comment on that, but I don't know. I just know the only reason that Orban is still around is because he's a careful player, and I expect he will remain a careful player. So, sorry, I can't offer anything more. Obadiah Vandal says, Semigog, do you think there's anything to the new Khazaria or greater Israel angles? I mean, beyond businessmen who are Jewish, among others, being in a great position to make money and, claim, virgin territory in terms of economic exploitation there. I don't know. I don't think so. But, there are those who would come in and say, you already answered the question. So, take whatever I say with a grain of salt. Your mileage may vary. All of this is speculation. What did I have here? I had one from, wasn't there? Yeah, Lego Shadow Spartan. Semigog, all you need to know about Albania is that the main religion there is Albanianism. You can look up a video called Religion in Albania on YouTube. Should be a 47-minute video that pops up. Yeah. When I looked into it, I thought they were Muslim, and then very oddly, as I began to, and Bektashi and shit, but as I began to dig, I found out that you just can't say shit about Albania. It's very strange, and I don't know enough to talk about what's going on there. I know that the Turks put a lot of money into it and are trying to increase their influence there. But yeah, I don't properly understand Albanians at all. They're still a question mark, like in my mental map of nations. Miserable Old Sod says, Semigog, thoughts on Poland giving the MiG-29 jets to Ukraine? Will they have an impact? Will they affect anything, or simply target practice for S-400s? I mean, at this point, they're talking about giving them 4 right away and as many as 12. I mean, how many have they lost already? I mean, I can't see it being any kind of like major deal. The only problem with this fucking hat is that it folds my ears down like a dwarf. I need to adopt some sort of rakish Cherkess. I need some rakish Circassian angle. How about that? We'll try that. Allah dem geçer genç Osman Pasha. I'm tone deaf too. Any more questions, ladies and gentlemen? We have a few more minutes left. My nose is stopped up. Man, this pollen is fucking me up. All right. Lego Shadow Spartan talked about confirms my idea that it's difficult to try to say anything conclusive about Albania, generally speaking. Metal Gandalf says, Semigog, what's up with Transcarpathia? I heard that the Ukrainian government recruited a lot of ethnic Hungarians. I'm skeptical myself, but you never know. Yeah, I don't know about that. I heard about, the idea that they're, rounding up ethnic Hungarians or whatever they are in Transcarpathia and sending them to the front first. I have no way to confirm any of it. Yeah, it seems entirely plausible, but it also seems like something that Russian propaganda would want to push out there. So all I can say is I don't know. Absolutely could be happening. Absolutely could be bullshit. Don't know. But as crooked as Ukraine doubtless is, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Charlie says Ukraine won't be able to launch an offensive in 2024. They need everything they can get in 2023. The extra planes and tanks are to hopefully make a difference wherever they strike. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It sure doesn't seem as though they have a whole bunch of extra resources to spread around. I'll say that. But um, the West has put a whole lot of their chips down on this square. So we'll see. Zed says, what does the hat smell like? It smells like proper old antique wool. Oh, Astragan. This is this wool comes from unborn lamb. They actually cut it out, and it has this lovely effect to it, and it's exceedingly soft. And even after years of being worn, shit, I mean, I've now owned it for 25 years. Smells good. Mm-hmm. Guy from V says, by pollen, do you mean Coke? No, I mean pollen, motherfucker. There's yellow shit all over my car. All right. All right. Miserable old Todd says, Semiagog, how long do you think it will take until Bakhmut falls? I have no idea, and I don't care that much. Right now, it's a sink for people to die in. And I'm not sure that it remaining behind the furthest points of Russian advance at this stage that it really affects their ability to advance further. I mean, I think it needs to be taken because it is a logistical hub and it is part of the Zelensky line. But I'm hesitant to credit too much of the, post facto tactical apologetics where it's like, oh, the Russians are just happy to have everybody pour in there. They don't really want to take the city. They're in no rush to do it because they can just hammer people. But in the case of Bakhmut, it really might be true, man. I think all of us would be shocked at the losses that Ukraine has suffered in relation to Bakhmut at this point. It's hell, man. It's just, I'm not a young man anymore. So like, I look at the shit those people are dealing with. And some videos are bullshit. Some stuff's taken out of context, but man, you can see some of these guys when the shells are falling around them. And I've heard like minor explosives go off. When my brother came back from his military training, he was like, yeah, man, they took us out to show us, they set off some serious explosives, and you feel like a major concussion. And then you wait a few seconds and then suddenly shit that's weighing, 100 pounds, 150 pounds, a chunk comes raining down on you because they're entire chunks of earth that are falling around you that are heavy enough to smash shit. People like fucking Lindsey Graham, man, from the JAG Corps talking about, how we need to do this and we need to do that, when people are literally being blown into a red mist, man. It's just, I don't know. Just another fucking day at the office, man. To view humanity from a timeless perspective is to be disgusted by mankind in many respects. The exceptions can be pleasant and encouraging, but as a general rule, yeah, people are fucking miserable. And so, yeah, I don't know what the odds are for Bakhmut long term, but I don't think at this point the Russians are in any hurry to be able to claim, to have captured the city entirely. I really do think in this case it's just a bunch of bodies being poured in there, especially when you think about the fact that they lack armor and vehicles. I mean, they still have any number of them. They're not out, but they're getting in shorter supply. And if they want to preserve them for an offensive, then they'll be in shorter supply still, which means it's a whole bunch of warm bodies that they do have access to because of their population. But what they're lacking is equipment and training. So a place like Bakhmut actually suits the Ukrainians insofar as they can push the bodies in there and they can be, hidden in trenches and amidst the rubble and the rest. They don't have to cross open fields. It's a place where I'm just guessing, but it seems to me it's a place where they literally can just pump in the bodies to a certain extent without needing all the hardware, and they can actually hold up the Russians for a while, but at enormous cost to the population. I might be wrong. I guess we'll find out, some years after the fact. But all signs indicate that there are a lot of fucking people dying there, man. So I don't know if the Russians really are attriting. It's a fucking horrifying word, and it seems they are. And if that is explicitly their strategy for this conflict, man, there's a lot of fucking ground beef at the bottom of that pit, man. And they just keep feeding more meat into it. It's like something out of the damn, the movie The Wall, where they're like turning the meat grinders and the little squiggles are pouring out of it. It's just horrifying to think about, man. Your tax dollars at work, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, let's look at what the last comments are here. Lord of Lek says, Chechnya lasted 22 months. It's foolish to think this will be over anytime soon. The Russians generally need at least a year to even get warmed up. Yeah, but I'm coming around to the people who think that this is going to be over by this coming summer. We'll see. We'll know within a month, I think. But within a month, it's likely that we're all going to like circle back around and say, yeah, this is going to be over by this summer. Ezra St. White says, Semigog, get near the beach. Pollen is subsided by the coastal winds. Yeah, I'm not right by it, though. I'm on my mountainside. I don't want to get near the beach because everybody else does. Miserable Old Sod says, Semigog, the advent of small drones certainly has presented more creative ways for killing, dropping multiple munitions on soldiers in foxholes, even chemical weapons in some videos, it appears. Yeah, I've seen some of those. Yep. Cheap drones produced in bulk. That's why it will be very, very interesting to watch to see if China decides to start supporting Russia in any way, sub rosa, particularly as regards things like drone manufacture. But yeah, we'll see. Wow, is this Charles Marlowe from back in the day? Holy shit, is he still around? He says Russia has hundreds of thousands of souls to spare. Ukraine does not. Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, sadly. Yeah, Charlie seems to think the war might go on for another few years. Certainly it may. And I still believe that they might open up more fronts. So, yeah. All right, ladies and gents, this is the last chance for final questions. We're coming up on 2 hours, and I will just drone here deep in the cups of my applesauce. Do we have any final questions? I also want to invite anybody if they have any kind of final call bullshit type shit, if there's something stupid I said or something I missed about these many countries that I very quickly, threw out opinions on, which is entirely possible. Tell me now. Let me know if anybody has caught me in anything bad. I'd want to correct it if you have better takes, or if you can disabuse me of some misapprehension I suffer from. Lego Shadow Spartan says Ukraine or the Ukraine. Well, now that I know the fucking name of the country just means borderlands, I'd call it the borderlands, the Ukraine. What else? Miserable Old Sod says, Semigog, where are you to have pollen this time of year? You're asking me a question outside of the scope. But I am in a place that is going to have weather in the high 50s and low 60s within days. Let's just say that. Lord of Lex says, good stream. He says, thanks. I say thank you in return. Charles Marlowe says, will you do another RPG type stream? No, but I will be doing one on Robert E. Howard as an author, kind of a follow-up to the Conan stream. And Conan, tell me, Conan, what is best in life? That will be coming up soon. Not sure, says Semigod, going to Europe in June safe. I just got back from Europe and I barely escaped a fucking country and convulsions of strikes. So yeah, I don't know that I'm in a hurry. Zed says, total winning, Oliver. Thank you, Zed. And thank you very much for helping this evening, as always. All right. Any final questions? You got 5 minutes, people. 4 minutes. I have 4 minutes to finish this delicious beverage. I call it the Woodsman. It's whiskey, expressed orange peels, proper bitters, and just a touch of maple syrup. Fine. All right, ladies and gents, this is it. All right, well, in closing, since I'm not seeing a final question, definitely check out Charlemagne's channel. 2 recent videos on what's going on in Ukraine. Definitely check out my buddy Prudentialist's channel for ongoing takes on geopolitics and strategy at regular intervals, dealing with all countries. Also, I should tell everybody that Apostolic Majesty is back. I have not caught his most recent stream, but my understanding is he just did one within the last few days. So definitely check out Apostolic Majesty's channel. Otherwise, it's the usual. Check out John D's Spaces on Twitter. Check out Academic Agent for sure. Aaron McIntyre, the whole crew, Columba, all of them. Check them out. All my peeps. Support to one and all. Prism says, any apple juice recommendations? You know, I'm getting cheap now in my old age. I have some sipping whiskey and I still have Bullet for that. But otherwise, man, if I'm already putting a bunch of sugar and other flavors into it, you know, making a cocktail or a mixed drink, I just get the Evan Williams Black Label because it doesn't dig as deeply into my wallet. That's what I'm saying, which means my dollar goes further. Truly a glorious thing. Is there anything left in here? Not a bit. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it seems we have arrived at that moment. I thank you all for joining. I thank you all for joining me this evening. Please do consider purchasing my goddamn book. You can do it on Amazon. Links in the description below. Vinculum, my sci-fi book, my badass collection of poems, Cinders from the Bloomery of Youth. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for me. I hope you will be back again soon. And I thank you all for not just tolerating me, but watching for all this time. Until next time, I am Semigog, and I am out.